All right, this is Zippy here. It's day one at AWA, having a great time, and just get the esteemed pleasure to talk to Troy Baker, voice actor extraordinaire, and just so many things. And I've just kind of been letting the guests do this, but just tell us a brief bit about, I guess, some of the roles you do, or just kind of about yourself.
I'm blown away. There was a lot of accolades in that introduction. There was esteemed and extraordinaire. Oh my gosh. I've had the privilege and the opportunity to play some really cool roles in anime and video games. I think my first big role was I played Frank Archer, who's a really, really bad guy in a very popular series called Full Metal Alchemist. I also played Abel Nightroad in an anime series called Trinity Blood. Kind of a fan favorite character in a show called Shin-Chan. I played the little main character, Shin, his TV hero called Action Bastard, which has been a lot of fun. And then I moved into the show Naruto, which is, hugely successful. And I played a character named Yamato on Naruto, and which is a tongue twister to say. And also a really, really bad guy who looks like Sting from the 80s, Kadia in Bleach. So that's kind of been my my foothold into the anime community. And then with video games, both in console games like Red Faction Guerrilla, I played the main character Alec Mason. I played Slimer, which is a lot of fun in the new Ghostbusters video game. The first video game that I did was a World War II first-person shooter game called Brothers in Arms, and I played the character that you play as, Matt Baker, which is a lot of fun. We've done 3 of those. It's probably the longest-running thing that I've done. And then there was a Japanese RPG game called Tales of Vesperia that came out here in the States a couple months back, and it just came out in the UK, where I played the main character, Yuri Level. So it's been a fun, exciting road.
I just have to ask right off, Matt Baker, Troy Baker, any relation?
I know, it's so funny. I was talking to the audio director, and I was like, well, dude, come on. Are you, did you make it? He goes, no, we didn't make it about you. You just happen to be someone that we know that has a cool voice. So, and it was the first video game that I'd ever done. And I kind of was blind going into it. And it set me up because we just finished working on the new Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, which comes out next month, and or November. And being able to do games like Brothers in Arms, where I'm used to screaming and grenade and get down and get all that MG. So when I came in to do Call of Duty, I was like, this is nothing. I'm used to screaming my ass off.
Do you ever wake up with flashbacks?
Dude, flashbacks and ripped up throat, man. On those games, they say you leave it on the stage, and there you leave it on the booth. There's a friend of mine just updated his Facebook saying, thanks for the memories. I was like, we have the memories and bits of our throat on the floor of your booth. So to remind yourself of the process of making that game.
Well, let me try to backtrack a little bit and just kind of ask you, I guess, what got you into acting to begin with?
I tripped backwards into it. I was in a band, and we were recording our album at the studio that did a lot of commercial work. And I popped my head in there one day and asked if I could, start doing commercials for them. They kicked me out. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call saying, if you're still interested, get down here. And so I got in their little voice booth and read copy, and it was car commercials. And so I just did what I'd always heard on car commercials, like this Sunday, and started doing car commercials for a lot of dealerships in Dallas, where I'm from. And I met one guy, Chris Sabat, who got me into doing anime, and then anime led into doing video games led into TV, and TV led into film. It's kind of been a crazy ride over the last 5 years now.
Well, crazy ride, but it sounds like it'd be pretty fun.
Dude, it's been an absolute blast. To be able, I grew up, and my mom, it was funny. Don't make those funny voices. Really? Really, Mom? Because it's kind of paying the bills now. So, I think there's definitely some people that are predisposed to, the stuff that, I always say the stuff that got me in trouble as a kid is paying me as an adult now. So, I've just been very fortunate.
And you currently reside in LA right now, right?
Yes, I live in the beautiful Southern California. It's funny because here in Atlanta, there's gray clouds and there's water falling from the sky, and I'd kind of forgotten what rain was because we just never get any. So I love it in LA, and it was I never really had any aspirations to move to LA. It was never kind of part of my my goals, but there's just some doors that opened up that you're stupid to not walk through, and I did. And there's two people, especially because of them introducing me and walking me in the doors to some places. Yuri Lowenthal, he's on Ben 10. He plays Ben. He's been Superman, and amazing voice actor. And Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who amazing voice actor in her own right. Plus, she directed Cowboy Bebop, and she's the director of Naruto. Those two people, especially, have really been the ones keeping me working in LA.
I was kind of curious because I know for a lot of people moving to LA is a very obvious kind of professional choice. They're like, I'm in Texas now. Maybe I want to branch into other types of acting. So, yeah, he definitely answered my question there just ahead of time. But what's the climate, I guess, between kind of Texas, where you do have all the voice actors and stuff, and they do a lot of theater as well, versus the LA crowd where, you know, you always assume everybody that's waiting your table is trying to get an acting job.
Yeah, it's different because, I mean, definitely in Texas, especially Dallas, is kind of a bubble. And there's definitely an acting community there, and there's been a lot of great actors, and there still are a lot of great actors in Dallas. I mean, just the shows and the cast list that Funimation has, is their pool that they have is incredible, just in the voice world. And then, of course, you have a lot of film and TV characters actors that have done outstanding work. And in LA, it's a little bit different because you're right. It's a more focused, centralized place. It's kind of like if you want to work in stocks, then your end game is going to be working on Wall Street. You know, that's just kind of where you go. And LA is kind of the same thing for the film and the acting industry. And you have people where you're right. There's a lot of people who, I wait tables now. What I really want to do is this. And everybody has a script, that they're trying to pitch to somebody. And I've been fortunate enough to where voice acting specifically has been really good to me, that I haven't had to go get quote unquote real job. And I've been fortunate enough to just kind of keep working. But I wouldn't say that, the talent pool is better in LA than it is in Dallas. It's just different, and it's a lot bigger pool in LA than it is in Dallas.
You said you had some kind of doors open up for you. How hard would it be for the traditional person just to move out to LA and try to get, even just a voice acting role?
Man, it's so hard, and especially voice acting, because we're a very tight-knit group, but because we're so tight-knit, I think a lot of times it's very, it's hard to penetrate. And the only way that you really get in is because you know somebody. And especially, you've heard that it's not, it's who you know. Definitely in this business, that's true. And there's a lot of people that say, "Well, I just think it's time for me to move to LA." And especially the last 2 years, that statement has not been true, because film, TV has dried up a lot of it, because coming off the writer's strike into the SAG, fear of the SAG strike, really shut down a lot of production. And luckily, it didn't affect voice as much, because even in a downward economy, people still want to watch, cartoons and still want to play video games. So we were fortunate enough, but that jump, that leap from not just Texas, but anywhere, into LA is really, really scary. And I think it requires not just a lot of hope and faith, but it really takes some practical ground for you to be able to land on it. Otherwise, you could really, really crash and burn.
That was video game kind of going into that role, kind of a conscious decision to expand your repertoire?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a conscious thing. It just kind of was like, someone said, "Hey, how about you do this?" I was like, "Sure, I'll give that a try." And I just, especially for where video games are at right now, everyone's going more cinematic and more, quote unquote real life. And I like subtlety. I like nuance. I'm a very, flamboyant, boisterous person, but I really like small things that sell a scene or sell a performance. And video games really do give you the opportunity to do that. And a lot of the characters that I've had a chance to play, even with Matt Baker, there's some very dramatic moments that especially the last game, Hell's Highway, has. Red Faction. There was, I was coming off the death of my brother, and so that drama plays into the game. It's not all Saturday morning cartoons anymore. It's really, really serious. I mean, if you look at Call of Duty, especially, I mean, that is going to be it's going to be one of the largest video games to come out of all time, and it's real. I know Marines that have played that game and scrutinize it to the 10th degree, and still come up saying that it is so real life, and it's exactly what they went through or are going through. So with video games, it's a lot different than anime, and I was saying this earlier in a panel. I like my performances to be the same, to where, in anime, you don't get this version of me, and in video games, you get this version of me that's the same. And different roles call for different kinds of performances. But at the end of the day, I want it to still be just me,
And you said you do some kind of live action kind of stuff, film. Do you do theater as well?
This is something that I really feel I'm at a disadvantage for never having done is theater. I know a lot of people, some good friends of mine, Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, who are phenomenal actors. They've done a lot of theater work, and I think that theater gives you a lot of training. I've heard that it helps you to build a character from the ground up, and you have to do the same performance over and over again, night after night, and you really get a chance to dial that in. And the closest that I've come have been on video games that we've worked on for 4 to 5 months, that I've been a lead character in, that we're recording every week, and it's almost like a TV schedule, to where you're going in and you're working on the same thing, so you're so dialed into the character. The film that I've done, it was on a Western called Comanche Moon, which is part of the Lonesome Dove series with Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones, and the character that I played had been portrayed twice before in 2 other movies. And we shot for 4 months out in New Mexico in the desert, playing cowboys and Indians. That's easy to just throw yourself into the moment. But those opportunities to really just completely close off the outside world and just be a part of that world are very few and far between. And I'd love the opportunity to get into theater and experience what that side of the business is like.
Well, one of the big differences, I'd imagine, between theater, film, and video games and anime, and I think you've kind of referenced that, is with anime, you don't even see a lot of the people doing voices with you. Do you find it's that much harder then to develop the character when there's not, the other people acting kind of right around you doing their own character too?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I've always been one that kind of has conversations with myself. Anime is definitely, I think, as far as especially being a voice actor, is the hardest part of the job. Technically, it's harder because you've got a finite amount of mouth movement flaps, to fit not just a translation of the words, but a translation of the thought into. And it's really, really hard to do, because what makes sense in Japanese culture does not necessarily make sense here. So it's not that we're trying to recreate the show. We're simply trying to take that show and have it make sense to a Western audience. And that's really hard to do, and it takes a team effort from the writers, the directors, and the actors. So when it comes down to acting, yeah, probably 80% of the time you don't have the other actors to play off of. Sometimes you do, and it definitely helps. There's a game that we just finished up working on, and a lot of the scenes I got to hear a lot of the other people, and so we really do sound like we're having a conversation with each other. And Tales of Vesperia was that way too. We got to interact, and instead of just reading my line, I was able to play off somebody else's line. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just acting, and a lot of times you have to just pretend.
Is it hard knowing that, when you've put out the finished product, whether it be on the internet forums or whatever, there's always going to be flack, for you didn't do it this way, you didn't do it that way.
And
like, how do you kind of survive all the criticism?
It's kind of part and parcel of the whole gig. I was actually just, there's a video game that comes out on Tuesday called Spyborgs that I play a character called Stinger. And Capcom has released a bunch of webisodes kind of promoting it and just kind of as supplementary material. And there's been both good and bad reviews. And a lot of times, and especially with anime, because there is, you look at a lot of the movies that have come out right now, like you take Iron Man, there have been so many iterations of Marvel characters like Iron Man or Spider-Man or the Hulk for people to base it off of. There's the comic books, there's a cartoon series, there's older movies, to where they have so many frames of reference to judge this newest incarnation out of. And anime is the same way. We have the original Japanese version, we have the comic books, the manga, to base that off of. And so then when you come in to do your performance, there's already people that are just saying, you're not doing it like so-and-so did. And inevitably you're going to get people that, rail you and malign you. But there's times when you get the latitude and the freedom to put your own kind of spin on the character and your performance. And there's sometimes where you really just have to do what the producers and the director kind of want you to do. And luckily, the former, not the latter, are the ones that are becoming more and more prevalent. Like Tales of Vesperia, that video game, I have a lot of latitude to work off of. And Naruto, Mary Elizabeth, who's directing, gives me a lot of latitude, and she's helping to guide me through it. So, yeah, I mean, I want people to have opinions, and if there's people that don't like what I do or what other people do, then voice it. That's why we, live here in America, is to be able to have freedom of our expression and speech.
Well, let me ask then, just because you have done a number of roles, what would you say some of your favorites have been, specifically, I guess, in anime?
Specifically in anime, Trinity Blood was such the story is so rich, the artwork is so beautiful, and the character specifically of Abel Nightroad is incredibly complex. Here you have this, on the exterior you have this very shy, self-deprecating, bumbling priest, but on the inside there is this, this Kruznik, who is a vampire that feeds on other vampires, that has this dark history and dark past that he's trying to make restitution for. And so you take a character like that, and it's just easy to fall in love with not only him, but also how he relates to other characters in the story. So that's definitely one of my favorites. And then on the other total opposite extreme of that, you take a character like Action Bastard from Shin-Chan, where it's just goofiness. It's just fun. And the writing on that show was so brilliant that it literally was on the page, and you could just spew out the words in any way, fashion, it was still going to be funny. And that's also that character. There's actually a guy walking around this weekend that's cosplaying as Action Bastard, and I had to pose with him. I was like, that's awesome. So those are two of my favorite characters, and Yamato in the Shippuden series in Naruto is really become a favorite of mine because we're very, very similar just in the way that we approach things, and there's a matter-of-fact side to you, and there's also kind of a goofy side to you, and that's kind of who I am. It's very dichotomous, but it's really hard to nail down who my favorites are, just because each one is so unique, so different, and the fact that I've been able to play them it blows my mind.
Well, and with Abel specifically, I can just kind of, depending on, did they give you like a lot of information going in? I know sometimes you do just like a cold read, or where you're just kind of looking over it like, oh, seems like a nice guy. Oh, what in the world did he
what is this? Mike McFarlane, first of all, is a very dear friend, and he directed me in Full Metal Alchemist, and he cast me in Trinity Blood. And it really depends upon your role. If you've got a lead role, you're obviously going to need to do a little more research. And Mike and I watched several episodes in the original Japanese to get a grasp of the show, to get a grasp of the characters, the feel, and we sat down and had a lot of conversations throughout the recording of it, to where he would guide me, and I would also challenge him as far as even just a simple line. You sure it needs to be this way? Because I don't think he would say this. I think he'd actually say this. And it was very much of a team effort to come out with the best product. But yeah, there was a lot of it where I wouldn't necessarily get scripts ahead of time because they were cranking out scripts as fast as they could. So a lot of times it was kind of a cold read. You get in there, you're like, really? This is the line, or this is the scene? And then very, very seldom would we be able to preview the episodes with advanced time as opposed to 3 or 4 days. That's one thing that's really great about original animation There's 2 shows that I'm working on now where I get the script, at least 3 or 4 days ahead of time. So I have a chance to really read through the script. I know who my character is at that point, or even before then. And I walk into the room knowing exactly where I'm at. But I'm still flexible enough to move around. It's a lot harder with anime because it requires, it's a lot more strict. And it's a little bit more of a more efficient, streamlined process than a lot of times original animation is.
Well, and also with original animation, essentially you're doing the voice before the mouth flaps.
It's all prelay, so we finished up on season 1 of The Avengers. And so I finally got to see some actual finished footage and see the character that I had in my head, the way it actually ends up being on screen is like totally different. It's way cooler. And you come back in, we actually do ADR to that, which is automatic dialogue replacement, which is what we do in anime. But yeah, it's more of like radio play. Original animation is more, because it's all cast record. There's anywhere from 8 to 10 people in the room with you, and you're reading off of each other. And so that really, really helps. But in some ways, it can also hurt because there's been times when it's been a really intense scene, and I've turned to the person that I'm talking to, but I still have to be on mic, and so I'm like, crap, we got to go back for technical reasons. But there's things about each that I like, respectively. There's things about original animation. I love the fact that it is kind of they're going to animate around what we do. But then I love being able to see the visual reference and really put myself in the moment with anime. So it's 2 totally different ends of the spectrum.
Now, with video games, have they ever been able to strap you up and kind of use your movements for the character?
Yeah, actually, one of the biggest examples of that, and sadly the game got canceled. Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, and I went over to Tokyo to do 10 days of mocap on a Castlevania game. And there's another one that's coming out. They were doing 2 at the same time, and they scrapped the one that we were working on. But we still got the amazing experience of working in Tokyo and being able to do mocap. And I love that because that's probably as close to theater as I've ever come. Because you're on a stage, you're really having to just imagine the world around you. It's very big, dramatic movements. And I've done, since then I've done some more mocap for some other things. So yeah, there's, with mocap, and also they'll do a lot of facial recognition to where they'll have a camera on you. And the first time I ever saw implementation of that was on a game called Eon Flux that I did with Charlize Theron. And I played Trevor Goodchild. And I remember when I was reading the line, I just kind of did like this chin stroke thing, and they showed me the finished product, and they incorporated that in there. So a lot of times they'll have a camera set up in the booth while you're recording because they want to see when you said this particular line, what were you doing? Because I'm very demonstrative. I played Conan the Barbarian in Age of Conan, High Warring Adventures, the MMO that's online, and we did one session about a month ago. And I actually was given this huge, like, gladiator speech, and I'm swinging around my invisible sword, and I actually pulled a muscle in my back because I get into it. I've done pirouettes, and fallen on my ass in the booth before, so I'm very, very physical when I act. So
that's pretty dedicated. So,
yeah.
Do you think, and kind of, I guess, going on a tangent with this, is I know you've got kind of a musical background. Have you been able to work that in, and maybe that's why you're kind of showy? You got that stage aspect to you.
I think so. I heard D. Bradley Baker, who's a phenomenal voice actor, and the man is what he is able to do with his mouth. It's not human. He's on Ben 10, and pretty much anytime you hear a creature in either a video game or a cartoon, it's probably going to be D. And he was the one who said you have to have some kind of performance background. Whether it be music or stage or acting, film, whatever. And I think that, yeah, the music, if nothing else from a technical aspect, knowing the business end of a mic or being on stage and, being demonstrative and putting on a show, I definitely think that translated into what I'm doing now. And I still do music, music is very much a part of my life. I'm still writing and still enjoy music. I mean, especially my fiance Katie, she's the one who really turns me on to new music. She's just an audiophile, and she'll find these straight. Like I had no idea that Dead Weather, when the new Jack White band. We saw them a couple weeks ago in LA. Awesome show. So I kind of tap into her for her to give me the cues as far as this is good music, listen to this. But yeah, music definitely plays a part in what I'm doing.
Do you have any specific music projects that you're working on right now?
Oh man, always. There's two things. One is that, there's a solo project, and I've been writing songs for the last 3 years and working with friends. I don't have a desire to start another band and do the whole touring and everything, but I have a great idea for just doing a project. And a friend of mine has a beautiful ranch in Santa Fe, and I've talked to him about coming out there and actually recording in his ranch just with friends, and not starting a band, but just spending 2 weeks and just recording a really, really good album. And that's looking like that's going to start happening. And then I've been talking with the band that I was in, Trip Fontaine. We're still very, very good friends, all of us, and we've been talking over the last week or so about just coming together and doing one more show, and maybe doing it at an anime convention, just because a lot of the fans here have asked me about the band. Someone actually came up and had one of our CDs and asked me to sign. I was like, God, where'd you find this? So that's been something that we've been thinking about doing too. So,
well, with your varied experience and just acting and like you said, the music roles, have you ever thought to maybe do some show directing or even script writing on your own?
I'm not a writer. I like to write, and there's a couple times when I've sat down and put pen to paper and have been proud with the finished result. But to me, a writer is someone who can just consistently write, and that's not me. Directing, as far as voiceover, I like directing. I've got a studio in my house, and I'll have a lot of friends come over, and they'll do their auditions there, or we'll do small projects there, and I get the chance to kind of direct. And I think a friend of mine, Keith Aram and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, those two people have really, and Mike McFarland, have really been my templates for a good director, because they simply let the actor do what they do, and they just guide them through the process, and they just kind of act. It's almost like playing or like bowling with the bumper rails. I just want you to get and knock all the pins down. If that means you need to bump this way, that's fine. I'll keep you from going in the gutter. And that's kind of my style of directing. As far as film directing, absolutely no aspirations, desires whatsoever. I've produced or co-produced a movie before, and I think it was very educational and very beneficial. But I don't know if I ever want to do it again.
Well, then, just kind of with your history in the booth and your kind of overtly physical nature with your characters, aside from hurting yourself, are there any kind of crazy booth stories you might be willing to share?
I'm trying to think. For myself, there's definitely the pulling the muscle on my back. I did a pirouette and just landed just flat on my back one time recording. There's a lot of other people. There's definitely stories of, Travis Willingham, who's working on Ghostbusters, and he screamed so much that he almost threw up. I've heard of other people, especially with screams, to where they, I've had those moments where you're going to do this just huge, monstrous scream, and it just comes out like, it's just this kind of squeak. I was like, that wasn't scary at all. Crazy as booth moments. Man, I don't know, because that could come back and haunt me. I'm trying to think if there's anything I can think of off the top of my head. Let me ponder that one, and we can blog about it.
If you think of any con moments too, that might work.
Con moment, dude, it's nonstop craziness. Like, someone said, "What's your craziest con moment?" I was like, right now, being able to cosplayers are the best, and the reasons why I love coming to conventions is because of the fans. This is 3 to 4 days where we as the misfits, or we as the weird people in society, are normal. Because we're all just, everyone here, the bar is completely flipped. It's not raised or lowered. It's just blown away, and the ability for it's some of the elaborate costumes and seeing people cosplay as Abel or play Action Bash or whatever is just really, really cool for me. My craziest con moment, God, man. I don't know. I've been asked to sign some crazy things. I've been asked to sign some crazy body parts. That's always that never gets old. That never just like, oh, that's normal. But no, it's getting trapped in an elevator. That was kind of fun one time, and it's it's full of fans, and you're here for the con. Try and do your best to just make small talk and like, please let the elevator fix. And luckily, we weren't in there for that long, but. Those are always good times. That and when the elevator drops a little bit and you're afraid you're going to die, you're like, and these are the people I'm going to die with. So you kind of bond with those people. So I don't know. Every moment at a con is a crazy moment for me.
I know for voice actors, obviously, I mean, your guests here, especially at a con like AWA where you have thousands of people, people recognize you, people probably, hopefully, treat you really well.
Yeah.
But when you go home, is it kind of like you go from a rock star environment to almost everyday kind of work?
There's definitely that, I mean, you come out here and I joke and it's like, you get treated like a Beatle. You walk out on stage and girls are screaming and stuff like that. It's crazy, which is fun, and it's like you appreciate it. But I mean, I also know that there's I'm not deserving. There's people that are out there in the crowd that are far more talented than I am, and I've just been very fortunate, and I'm grateful for that. And so you go back home, and you hang out with the rest of your buddies, and you always realize that there's someone. If you ever think you're high up on the ladder, there's someone that's a lot higher than you. I was working on a show, and I walked into my first session, and sat next to Mark Hamill. And for me especially, growing up, not just as Luke Skywalker, but also as the Joker, for me to sit next to him, and when we get done, he says, hey kid, you got a hell of a set of pipes on you. That's validation, absolutely. But you also realize that, there's a lot of other people that have been doing this a lot longer than I have. And I'm just very, very fortunate, and it can end like that, and you just got to ride it as long as it lasts.
Well, I'll probably just let this be the last question, and of course, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what are some of the things you got going for the rest of the con?
For the rest of the con, it's really cool. I just sat down with someone from Funimation, and we're going to make a little announcement that I've been waiting to make tomorrow. So I'm excited about that, about a show that I'm a part of. We've got a couple of panels to do. I just found I'm going to be judging the Rock Band contest, what I'm really, really jazzed about doing. It's as soon as we get back to LA, it's back to business. There's a couple of games that we finish up on, a couple of games that we start up. So luckily, it's been good, and I'm looking forward to November, because that's when Call of Duty comes out, and that's when Uncharted comes out. I'm pretty much going to lock myself up in my apartment for the next month or so.
That sounds pretty sweet. Well, thank you for your time, and definitely thank you for this interview.
Zippy, thank you. I appreciate it.